Well, for us, it's interesting because we have been practicing and we've been working since the spring all through the summer, in the limited amounts that we're able. But it's been amazing working with this team. I mean, the momentum that we had at the end of last year carried over, and this team has just competed every day and practiced with a hunger that is inspiring and really fun to be around for a coach, for everyone, to be a part of it. So it's been a blast, and now I can't wait to get started with our 20-hour weeks, coming up with official practice tomorrow. And so the excitement is high, the anticipation is high, and I think the ceiling is very high, and it's just a fun place to be. This group is, it's a special group.
I was asking Kennedy, you talked last year about how difficult it was. You build this program on family and spending time together, and you couldn't spend as much time together last year. Getting this team back together, and she was talking about just team dinners and stuff. How nice is that? How important is it for the building of this program?
Yeah, I think that's the foundation of what we do, and it's what we recruit to. It's really the foundation of a person that chooses us. They want to be a part of a community like that. We tend to have a very selfless team because of those experiences, the community service stuff we do, the stuff we do with our fan base, how relational everything is. And so I thought, last year just hit us. It was like a low blow last year to our program, especially because it really undermined everything other than the actual basketball execution that we can do on the court. But the way we play is a lot of times because of who we are off the court. And, so under the circumstances, I thought we did phenomenal last year. I thought, every day was fun practicing through the pauses. We got better. Attitudes stayed great throughout. They took care of each other. But, man, it was not anywhere near the same experience as what we typically have. This year will be hopefully back to normal in that way. And, we're looking forward to a tip-off dinner with our fan base where we're going to be in the same room, maybe not quite as close as we've been in the past, of course, always taking precaution, but in the same room. That's going to be, just going to a football game and seeing some of our fans and hearing, how much they missed it has been so encouraging and exciting, So we're all looking forward to getting back to normal and being what we are in every aspect instead of just a basketball team.
Given how much you had to overcome last year with the pauses and all that, what can you take away?
Well, we learned a lot about ourselves, about being resilient and tough. We learned to find positives in challenging times for sure, almost to find hope when there wasn't any at times, and then to make the most of the opportunities that we got. We had 3 great wins at the end of the year. I think there were only 12 teams in the country I counted that had 3 as good or better wins than we had by the end of the season. And that was a testament to making the most of those opportunities and really coming together quickly because we had to time and time again. It felt like we were just restarting all the time. So that toughness, I think, will carry over. I think there is a hunger that was, created in us because we weren't able to compete normally. The experience was different. So I think there's an excitement and a hunger to get back at it, which has fueled the work in the off season, and so now we're whole, we're healthy, and wanting to do something really special this year.
On the court, where did you specifically miss Kennedy last year?
Well, Kennedy is probably, I don't know if I could even say probably, I think she is the best defensive post player that I've coached from day one. I think she was the most prepared, the most natural defender. Her angles, things that I usually spend a couple years teaching, she already had them. To defend without fouling, to rebound out of position, her natural instincts. We really missed that, on the defensive end of the floor. Offensively, she's dynamic in that she's so comfortable at her size, at 2 positions. She can play the 4 or the 5. I think she will be able to slide to the 3 as well before it's over. And, so we missed her from there's really not an area that you don't miss Kennedy because of who she is. I mean, she has a presence to her in a leadership standpoint. She has a confidence and a poise to her that's just unflappable in big moments. And she provided, last year just, it's one more post player that's really good. And so we lacked in depth, when we did get in foul trouble from time to time. And that's why you saw us slide Ellie Mack, last year to the center spot when Yelena and Taylor were both in foul trouble or whatever. So we missed her in every way, actually. Yeah. But I would say defense and rebounding the most.
Outside of the natural improvement that you might have from a player that's a couple of years older, is there anything else about her game that's changed at all, or she's added to her game?
She's really worked hard on shooting the ball. That was something that her freshman year, before her injury, she was disappointed in. And so she right away went to work on that and turned it, a negative into a positive by breaking down her fundamentals, and that's to her credit. She came straight to me with that and said, hey, I want to use this time to get better in this area. And so I just see more consistency in her shot, a greater understanding of her back to the basket game as well, and understanding what works and what doesn't. I've seen that since we've been able to work with her again. So I think we'll see strides there on the offensive end.
One thing that is obviously stands out about your program is the leadership. You always seem to have one or two players who really stand out, going back to Kat Mick and Aaliyah last year. Yeah. So it's not worth asking how do you replace Aaliyah's leadership. You will. Does that come naturally? Is that something that you have to facilitate, or do you feel like you just always have people stepping into that role?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that confidence, because a lot of people are like, how are you going to replace Mick? How are you going to replace, Sydney Weiss? How are you going to? And so that's usually what I hear. And so it does happen, though, like you just said. And so there is a natural process to it. It's my favorite part of my job, to develop leaders, because I think that is the skill that carries them the furthest in life. And I think this is the most unique opportunity that they'll ever have, most likely, to develop it. You get into that senior year, and everybody saw what Aaliyah did last year. And she carried us in so many ways. She was our toughness. She was heart and soul. She was the coach on the floor, and she just stepped right into it, and it was beautiful to watch. The other one that really stands out to me was Marie Gulich. Did the same her senior year, where it was like she was just a different person that senior year, and it was so beautiful to watch that progression for her. This year, you got Taya Corsdale, who's been through every battle, been a 3-year starter for us, and now in her 5th year with that redshirt year. So much wisdom, so much knowledge, so smart, and now finding her voice, and she's not the person that's going to dominate a conversation, but she's going to be the person that you probably remember what she said the most, because it was so impactful. You got Ellie Mack, who's in her 6th year. You've got 2 grad transfers that are joining us. All these, the person that will probably have the ball in her hands the most is Talia. And I can look back to 3 practices we had in July where we had our freshmen here and our returners came back. And so freshmen were in, getting accustomed to everything. The returners came back and they blended. 3 practices where I was a part of because of recruiting we were here. And Talia's voice was as loud as anyone's during those practices. And one of the practices I kind of let them determine. They coached themselves that day with our guidance, of course. And I just kept hearing her voice, her voice, her voice. And, coming in, she's a freshman, but she's not a true freshman, right? Because she is, but she isn't, because of last year's experience. And so that gives her validity, gives her credibility, and gives her the confidence to speak up. And she's got a lot to offer. So I mentioned Kennedy already. Kennedy's got a presence. Taylor's a junior now. There's so many places it can come from. Usually it does turn into 1 or 2 main voices, and it will be interesting to see, where we go this year with that. But I'm really confident that will be addressed at a high level with this group.
How huge was Talia coming in for that sample size that you got for this season, given the role that she's taken on as the primary ball handler of this team?
It's hard to quantify it. It's massive. She struggled against Stanford both times. She struggled against South Carolina. There's really no way to recreate those experiences here. You have to really experience it. So for her to go through those games last year, it fueled an off season. And when you guys see her, you'll see her. She looks different. I mean, she's in incredible condition and has worked so hard in the off season. Well, that vision that fueled her actions in preparing herself for this year is solely because of those experiences last year on the court. So like I said, she's a freshman, but she's not a true freshman because of those experiences. So invaluable, actually, because we need her to be great this year, and we need her to be our floor leader, and I think she's ready.
Can you say, is your team fully vaccinated? Do you know?
I don't know. I want to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But can I just, not about that, but can I ask, protocol-wise, how are things for you guys? Is there different things you have to do, or is it pretty much back to normal?
I feel like it's pretty much back to normal. Yeah, we're in a good place.
There's been a lot of talk about equity between the men's and women's Final Fours. You've been to a Final Four. Combining the sites, is that, to your mind, the best way to address the equity issue, or do you think it's nice to have your own site, your own location? What do you think should happen?
It's a great question. That is a thought that would need to be really developed. If we were to go to the same site, what would it look like? My initial response, and I'm someone who doesn't love change, would be, let's just do our own thing, and let's keep rolling like we have. The inequities were so blatant and embarrassing last year that certainly we've got some work to do, and I think it's mainly communication. I can't say that I've felt like the JV team to the men's tournament in my personal experiences, because I felt like, I mean, we were at the Final Four, and we've got police escort everywhere we go, and I felt like we were treated extremely well. The more things are made public, the more transparency there is. The inequities that we learned need to be addressed, and I'm very confident they will be. As far as that fundamental of where we put the tournament, would we feel like the JV if we were together with the men? I don't know. But I'm not in a place. My team has never felt like the JV. Whether it's here at Oregon State, whether it was at George Fox University for all those years. I mean, we draw, I ask for everything there is to ask for to run a first-class program, and we've been successful, and I can't say that we lack. And because of that, I have felt like my team last year, while that was the first time I ever had that conversation with my team. How do you feel about this inequity that we've seen? I've never in my career had that conversation with my team about the men are getting this and we're getting this. Never. And so when we were in the hotel room in San Antonio last year and everything was breaking and all hell's breaking loose, I said, how are you guys feeling? It's the first time I've ever had to ask that, and they said, it hurts. It hurts to see this. And that hurt me, because these are athletes just like any other athletes. This is the highest level of our sport. They deserve everything any other athlete anywhere else would get or receive, and it's up to me to make sure that happens. And so, I mean, I could say I've fought like crazy to make sure that happens my entire career, So I'd have to see more to be able to make that determination, and I'd make sure that it would be in the best interest of our sport and our team, whatever I would decide. I just don't know enough.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm open to listening on.